You're listening to the Neil Lamptey Show. My name is Joey, and I'm joined by Paul.
All right, mate.
And by Neil.
Hello.
Moments of the week, Paul.
I'm going to go with Burge, the 2 saves, the one from Junior Brown's. Yeah, I don't know how to describe that, but I know we're quite big fans of Burge on this podcast. I just think he's just a good goalkeeper. I think and it wasn't just his saves. It was late on, I think, in the 95th minute or something, at a corner, and you know he's going to catch it, and you know he's going to be reliable, and he's just as he plays more games, he just makes fewer and fewer mistakes, which is to sort of be expected. I think he's just a really good goalkeeper, and I think we're a better team when he's there.
He did rubbish kicking, Paul. He did rubbish kicking.
I don't know how to respond to that.
That's me being the voice of reason. No, come on. Let's not be one of those Twitter people I only speak the truth, and then say something completely racist. The voice of reason is, obviously, whoever picks our man of the match at the Rico is a clown, because they always seem to get it completely wrong. And as my mate turned to me and went, well, actually, if you think about it, they just wanted to meet Connor Chaplin. They didn't actually care who was man of the match. They just wanted to meet Connor Chaplin.
That's a good point, actually, yeah.
Oh, I didn't consider that. Yeah. Maybe we should become sponsors and we just give Tony the man of the match, even though he's on the bench.
Yeah, I think that, but I think it's purely because if you were watching that game and you give it to the only other player, in my humble opinion, who could have possibly got it above Burge, was Bayliss, who just looked a class apart. And just the amount of time he broke from midfield and played for Berlin, I know you'll probably go on to that in the match. Bayliss was brilliant, but the man who won us the match was clearly Burge.
Paul, who would you, if you were picking the man of the match and you were doing it nefariously to meet a Cov player, who would you pick?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably Bayliss. Because he's not going to be here for long. He's not going to be here after January because he's just standing out. I know now Kelly's back, we might just start shoving him on the left wing to sort of not play him in his best position. But I think Bayliss is just a class act.
I think Bayliss would fit very firmly into the category of don't meet your heroes, because he's 19, isn't he? And he just make me feel very sad, I think.
I just think, but he can't do anything to annoy me, because you do feel like scruffing. Like, he's got that, it's like quite like young person cool haircut, and he's, I think if I met someone older, I think that'd probably irritate me even more.
Neil?
His haircut irritates me. I'm sorry, because he's got a cool person's haircut, but he just doesn't do anything with it. He's got this sort of undercut thing on the go, and then it just goes flat against his face. That doesn't seem correct.
Yeah,
it's a team photo. It's just his hair on his forehead.
I don't think he's got a cool person's haircut at all. That's one of the things that I find quite endearing about him, is that he doesn't. I don't think he looks particularly footballer-ish. I think he looks like what a footballer looked like 20, 30 years ago. Just a sort of lanky streak of piss. No, you know what I mean? No, mad flashy boots, or he just looks like an all right lad, don't he?
I just feel like he goes into the hairdresser and says, right, I want what he's having. And the guy next to him's got like a really cool undercut thing on the go. And then he comes out and it's like, well, I don't know how to do this. So he just leaves it flat against his head. It's interesting. He is endearing, isn't he?
Neil, is it as simple as that for you? It's Tony that you're meeting?
Well, I've kind of made my own bed here, haven't I? I love Tony, ergo I must meet him. So, yeah, I guess so. Probably, I wouldn't mind meeting Chaplin. He looks quite small. That would be all right.
He does look. He looks.
He actually is small. He's got, what is he, 5'6" or something?
Yeah.
I mean, he's more hobbit than dwarf, isn't he?
We're being offensive to our tonight, aren't we? Rein that one in.
Someone somewhere is chuckling. That's all. I'm going for that one person who's laughing right now. Yeah, me and you're on the same wavelength.
I think I'd go for Max.
Ah, yeah.
I'd go and visit him in hospital.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, "Who are you?" I'd be like, "Oh, I do a podcast. Sorry."
Oh, my old question.
Yeah. Neil, your moment of the week.
I was going to go with Burge as well. Probably. But
what about his kicking, Neil? What about his kicking?
That save, that flying save that he did against, it was in the second half. Can't remember who had the shot, but it was heading towards the corner, and there was a good video actually on goal cam video on Twitter which showed it, and just I like that athleticism. That was really good. But if Burge has already been taken, because let's not say that's a moment of the week, back to back wins in the league.
Yeah,
ain't bad. That'll do me.
I'll have that. Just give a bit of a bump, and now we're in that stage where you wonder, what comes next. Do you kick on, or was it just all a massive ruse to confuse us?
I'm going to round things off with a little bit of Jordan Willis action. I think he gets a mixed ride on here, doesn't he? Because I think sometimes we can be quite full of praise. Sometimes we can be dismissive of his passing and whatever else. Sometimes you just need someone who's willing to throw themselves at full pelt into a ball so that it goes in the net and take a big kick in the face and an arm and everything. And I think it's a very, very valuable skill, that kind of bravery and whatever that makes you do that. And I can't do it.
Please try.
I'm an absolute coward. But
I don't know. Some of the views you express on here are sort of quite similar to that, throwing yourself full force into, regardless of what the consequences are.
Well, but I hide behind a microphone rather than throwing myself full pelt at a ball. I just thought 80th minute. That's exactly who you wanted to step up and take responsibility and do that. I thought, good, good on you. And I also.
Do you want to know something funny about that?
Yes, go on.
For a moment, for a brief moment, a couple of us weren't really sure who had scored, and one of it wasn't me, so I went, "Oh, that was a great bit of bravery from Jonathan Clark Harris," and then it was like, "Oh no, that's Jonathan." Oh, it was. That makes more sense now. That was Jordan Willis.
Yeah, Jonathan Clark Harris had thrown himself on the ground when Jordan Willis had thrown himself at the ball. It was difficult. I think Clive had a bit of a struggle with it. But yeah, fair play to Jordan Willis. I also gave rise to a little scene thing in football, which is the tentative goal celebration, because obviously everybody wanted to celebrate an 80th minute goal with the goal scorer, but they were in no man's land trying to work out how to celebrate with a man who was clearly in quite a lot of pain.
That again.
It's just.
I was going to say, if they'd practiced with Shipley last week, they could have learnt that skill.
I do. You wonder if you're Shipley, you're just like, oh, no one come and stood in a circle around me. But yeah. Right, before we go into the Barnsley game, Paul, you've got a little bit of question action, haven't you?
Well, I have a small quiz, and it's pretty simple. I've picked 5 strikers from our last season at Highfield Road, and all you have to do is work out whether or not they scored their most league career goals in England for Cov or for someone else. All right? So the 5 strikers are Patrick Sufo, Dele Adebola, Stern John, Andy Morrell, and Gary McSheffrey. So all it is like, did they score the most goals for Cov or non-Cov? That's it, really.
Give us that list of names again for anybody listening.
The mighty Patrick Sufo,
the magician,
Dele Adebola, Stern John. I was trying to think of something witty to say, then I realised you'd probably just go off for a sulk. Andy Morrell and Gary McSheffrey.
Fabulous stuff. Okay then, Barnsley, a team I really didn't expect to get anything out of this game, and I've forgotten that traditionally we've got a really good record against them, haven't we?
And they acknowledged that, didn't they?
Yeah, it was good to see them upholding tradition. No, what happened?
Oh, they did a bit of a mocking, self-deprecating video before the match, just sort of saying, let's have a look at the last time we won at Coventry, and then they did some. Basically, there's no footage here, and it was all very funny. Good social media.
Yeah,
fair play to them.
And it's a shame that their quality social media wasn't matched by their quality on the pitch.
Indeed, which was surprising in a way that we didn't. I saw that. Yeah, that was a good link. Ruined by the fact that once again we have mentioned there's a link. Oh dear.
It was sort of factually incorrect, but other than that, nice try, Joey. One day you're going to nail it.
It's not important for it to be right. What's important is that somebody just picks it up and then carries on the podcast.
Never happens.
That seems too
Never
professional.
going to happen, is it? Never going to happen.
No. Okay, but so the link was they didn't play very well. The reality was they actually looked quite good. They should have been playing. Like I say, so they'd have 15 points or something. They're unbeaten all season, looking like a good quality team in this league. We'd come into it, a little bit hit and miss, but we'd had a rubbish performance against Arsenal. But let's face it, that's Arsenal. Under 21s versus total reserve team of ours as well.
Not a real game. Didn't exist.
No, didn't feel like a real game. Didn't play like a real game. So there was no surprise when we reverted back to the team that we did. I mean, it was basically the team that started against the match before. I can't remember who that was, except for Sterling in place of Grimmer. So we went into the game not entirely sure, because there'd been a week break, just how we're going to play. And I actually thought it was all round a really quite sort of high tempo game, quite high intensity, and
genuinely, it was really enjoyable to watch, weren't it? Overall,
I was going to say, I just thought it was a really watchable game, and not just for like the high pace of it, but there was lots of like sort of moments of quality in there from sort of both teams as well. So it just kind of it maybe showed the better side of League One as opposed to what we were used to last year, when we watched some absolutely atrocious games of football. Where actually this week I thought we turned up. We really engaged in the match, and obviously we had to, because I said to my dad after about 10 minutes, I thought we were really going to have to fight to win this one, because if you don't play well today, you're not gonna get anything out of this, because you're up against a good side. And I thought ultimately that's what we did. I mean, you kind of work your way through the players, and it's hard to pick out anybody who had a particularly poor game. There were people who had like poor moments. I guess Shipley was having a bit of a dodgy first half, kind of exasperated by the fact that people were noticing that he was a little bit nervous. And I think there was a period in that game where he was looking a little bit dicey for him. But I think he held his own eventually, and he basically ran his way out of that. He continued to work.
This is the thing with Shipley now, is he seems to be creating this weird niche for himself, where he doesn't individually play well, but that seems to be a positive influence on the side somehow, and I can't wrap my head around it.
Well, it's a funny one, isn't it? And we've kind of picked this out before, like the reverse of that, where you've got someone playing well individually, but doesn't seem to help the team as a whole. It's just a strange one. Like every time he plays for us, as a sort of a coherent unit, we look like something that's going to work. And then when you take him out and you put someone who by right should be a better player on the left wing, we don't seem quite the same. And I think a lot of that has to be said, without discrediting him, because I think he's a good player. A lot of that is just down to sort of the sheer sort of willingness of him to continue to play football. He's got a hell of a lot of tenacity about him, and I thought he really rode the storm the other day, because a lot of players would have just felt that first half kind of overwhelmed them, not really be able to come out of it, like maybe failing injury or something daft like that. But no, he kept going, and I think fair play to him. If you're not playing well, if the game's not going for you, the bare minimum is that you still keep fighting for it, and you continue to work for the team, and that's what he did. So yeah, good on him. Another player in kind of that mould, someone who's probably been feeling the pressure recently, and as coming into the game starting again, was Sterling, because there's been so much clamour for Grimmer to come into the team. Sterling as yet hasn't really shown anything to us that to sort of suggest that he could replace Grimmer or kind of show any real sort of attacking quality which you see from Grimmer. But there were moments again on Saturday. I don't think he's there yet, but what I want to see from all the players is kind of improvement. And he's only young. He's clearly kind of easing his way into the season. And what we needed the other day was a solid performance from him, and he absolutely gave a solid performance. I won't go as far to say that I think he's a better option than Grimmer at the moment. I still think him versus Grimmer, I have Grimmer all day long, very much for the sort of same reason I give Shipley a go in the team, because I think he aids us as a sort of a formation. But I feel more comfortable that Sterling might be able to grow a little bit in this team. Now I haven't seen that. I still don't quite know exactly what he is, but I feel more comfortable with it.
I thought he had a good game, and I just
defensively I thought he was composed in position. Positionally, I thought he did really well. My comparison really is then what I get from Grimmer versus him. That's where I think he still lacks, but it was a perfectly solid game.
I think that's fine. I thought in the first half, I thought he did a couple of good things going forward. My question now is, having seen him have that game, is in 10 games' time,
if we played him for 10 games, would we have a better player than Grimmer at the end of those 10 games? Having seen that performance, and I thought for the first time that he is worth persevering with. I think it's always going to be a struggle with those sort of players. It's basically you've got the here and now, which is Grimmer, then you've got the future, which is potentially going to, which is, if you listen to everything that Chelsea is saying, is Sterling. It was always going to be a case of time and how he develops. Now, if you can accept the fact that he's not going to be inch perfect in everything he does, but he's going to get better as he develops, then I think you might get the feeling, I got the feeling on Saturday for the first time really that actually if we give this guy games, in 10 games time, he will prove to be better than Jack Grimmer. Because
we do have to take your opinion with a pinch of salt, because you'd rather see a dog with football boots play at right back than Jack Grimmer.
No, that's not. I mean, I want the best player to play there, and I think I saw enough in Sterling's performance. Defensively, I thought he was really good. Attacking wise, he did a couple of good things. He did a couple of poor things. That's no different from Grimmer. We've got to get away from this thing that Grimmer is this like wonderful attacking player. He isn't.
But he is good.
I don't think we need to go around this argument from last season, but last season he only created 2 goals. I think he's okay going forward. He's not amazing, and defensively he had really bad games last season. He had some good games last season. I just think that I don't see anything wrong. As I said, I thought Sterling had a good game, and it's one of those ones where people are talking about Sterling being the future Chelsea right back. And if we stick with him now, then you've got to get the Grimmer stuff out of our system and say this guy deserves to be right back. Either that, or you go back to Grimmer as soon as he's fit, because otherwise, the Sterling debate's never going to end. He had a good game on Saturday. I still see people slag him off. And it's like, well, if you compare him to Junior Brown, who in the first half was horrific, he's got far less criticism than I've seen Sterling get, and Sterling had a good game. I think
I don't disagree that given that guy time, he'll flourish, and he will become the player that he should be, because he's at Chelsea. He's played like for England's youth level. When he's in his comfort zone, I'm absolutely sure there's a lot of quality there. I have to admit, I think you're kind of overplaying his performance and then also downplaying the quality that Grimmer has in the same moment to almost elevate his position in the team. I think he had his best game for us by far the other day, but I don't want to sort of use that one moment to kind of diminish everything that Grimmer's done, because I don't think I'm alone, but I don't like to always pick the popular opinion, but I think sometimes the popular opinion is popular because there's a lot of merit behind it, and the notion that Jack Grimmer is just like an all right player for us. I think he actually for us has been really, really good, and in the same way that, like I say earlier, Shipley has a lot of value to the team. Grimmer does exactly the same, in my opinion. Let's not have this debate, because I know we have different views, but that's kind of, I thought I'd best say that.
Just a quick, just the one thing on, not as a comparison point, but just the one thing on the douche, is the main concern for me has been around, sometimes you see an 18-year-old come through, and sometimes they're Adam Armstrong, where they just, they're a man, basically, and they get straight on with it. And from what I've seen of the douche so far, I couldn't tell whether maybe just that inexperience sort of showed, but I thought he really grew into the game, and in such a way that, like you say, his positioning was good and his strength was good, and he looked like by the end of the game, he looked like someone who played a bunch of games, didn't he? And I thought, I can really starting to see something now. That's really good.
And I want that, just to be absolutely clear. If I want him to flourish, I want him to come here and be. At the beginning of the season, I picked him out as the one I was really looking forward to see, because I'd seen him play for England under whatever it was. I'd seen him on YouTube, and you've read all the stuff about him. You think, this guy, there's something really classy about him. The start didn't quite match up to that. I absolutely want him to do well, and if it turns out, like Paul says, that after 10 games he's better than Grimmer, you play him. That's absolutely the case. My take on the other day is that there's still some way to go, but let's give him the opportunity. And I haven't heard anything from Robbins yet about Grimmer, but I sort of sense that it's not going to be a quick one to get over, is it? It looked like he'd done something to his knee when he kind of jarred it. So, have we got any news on Grimmer? While I'm asking that,
you carry on with Barnsley, and I'll have a look.
I haven't heard anything.
No, I'm usually quite good at predicting injuries. I feel like that might not be a really good one. So that was that anyway. So rest of the game. We've already kind of alluded to Junior Brown, who is another player who came in with a solid reputation and as yet is, I'll be honest, performing quite poorly in comparison to Mason. He had a really shaky start. His legs sort of go to jelly occasionally, and that was kind of best shown, with the chance they gave away early on where Burge really did save him. I get the feeling because he's kind of more experienced than Mason, Robbins is keen to get him in. I don't know whether there's a sort of a pressure there, which it's not obvious, but it kind of feels like ultimately Brown is the more sensible choice. But I think performances this season, especially like the other day as well, I think while Brown settled down eventually, I still see Mason kind of as outperforming him this season. I think in midfield, I was pretty happy, like Paul said earlier. Bayliss was just, that guy is so classy. And you did wonder whether it was because it was League Two last year and whether the quality was so poor that he was just standing out as a kid. But he's made the step up, and he just, even whatever game he's playing now, he shows his class, and it's an effortless class really. And it's just, I'm worried about January now. I'm not usually like that, but when you continue to play that well, it's going to be very hard for him to be ignored by big teams.
The other thing with Bayliss is we've got to now put a lid on that argument about whether he plays as number 10 or outright or in central. He has to play in central midfield, doesn't he?
He does, but he's that good. I think that's why the argument's even there, because Robbins, I think we saw it the other day, he's so keen to keep him on the pitch. He ends up just throwing him in every position, and it's strange because he doesn't work in every position, but he's kind of that good.
Yeah, and he can do a job in those places.
Yeah,
a player of that quality, you build a team around him.
He didn't look comfortable once he went out wide left. That was just.
He didn't look comfortable, no. But
his impact on the game waned. I mean, we were very lucky he scored not long after that substitution, because just before that substitution, he had made another breaking run where he either slid in or tried to slide in Thomas on the right wing, and he just, after that, the game sort of basically passed him by a little bit, and it was a bit of a odd substitution because everything was going through Bayliss at that stage. It just didn't seem to be needed, in my opinion. As I said, we got lucky because we got a free kick not long afterwards where we scored from, but Bayliss's impact on the game completely went away.
I guess that's one of the big concerns this year is we've got these people on the bench who have quite good shouts from their kind of career to suggest that they should be playing first team at this point. So Kelly, for instance, he had a good season last year. I do wonder how much of that is in Robertson's mind. I mean, it shouldn't be. You just play your best team and best players and best subs at all points. But some of the substitutions this year just seem to strike me as, or changes in the team, just seem to him trying to get people in because he feels like he should be playing them first team. And that I guess that Kelly one was probably a good example of that. You could suggest he was trying to cut them shut up shop, but at the same point, like you say, we were looking good with Bayliss in the middle. So you kind of it's a hindrance to your own sort of style if you end up forcing these players in. So, I mean, that's one for Robbins to kind of deal with this year, whether he can sort of be a little bit stronger in his mindset and make sure that he's not always forcing people into the team who he thinks, who basically think they should be in the team. And that's what I'm trying to get at, really. I thought, actually, just to mention, man of the match, I don't think we spoke much about him, but I had Clark Harris as man of the match. Strangely, I kind of watched it back just to see why I thought that, because when I was there, I was kind of focused on him and I was really enthused by his effort. And then I watched it again, and then it wasn't a perfect performance, and he didn't keep the ball well at all times. But I just think he's showing real determination and a real sort of strong attitude to grab that position. I think he recognises that there's a big opportunity now. Now that sort of Huwula and Bakayoko haven't really shown much in that position, Biami's injured. This is his chance now to really stake a claim. And the games that he's played since he's come back into the team, I think he's put in really strong performances.
I think there's a little bit of the same as what we were talking about with Shipley, where I think the system works with the players that are in those positions at the minute to such an extent that even when things aren't going perfectly for people, they're still comfortable with the jobs that they're doing. And it looks natural and it doesn't look forced, and people don't look like they're having to think about what it is that they're doing. He seems him and Chaplin straight away, I don't think have had great, like, playing 1-2s sort of Brazilian football together, but they look like a strike partnership. They look like they're happy to play next to each other and can affect the game playing next to each other, don't they?
And it looks like it could grow as well.
Yeah,
there's lots of signs. It's not perfect all the way through, but there's lots of signs where there's moments and you think, oh, hang on, there's a connection there somewhere. And these things develop, don't they, over time? And you just kind of hope that if we can build some momentum with the results, that allows you to retain the same team. And then we end up with what we had at the back end of last year, which was a really sort of growing and emerging unit, which made absolute sense to everybody within it. So by the time we hit the playoffs last year, we all knew what our team was, and we all knew how they were really going to perform. You just hope. And a lot of this is down to luck. I mean, you can lose games and be good. And the risk if you lose games and you're good is that certainly with certain managers, that they want to change things, and without realising it, they really sort of hamper the dynamic of the team. So I'm really hoping we can just get a decent sort of run of games just with this team, just to allow them to just kind of work together and kind of build that cogency between all of them.
Yet to mention Luke Thomas, who I thought had a really good game.
Yeah, he's kind of this year's Ryan Kent. He's not Ryan Kent, but he's kind of. I
know what you mean. Yeah.
There's the element of he knows he's in probably a lower league than he's capable of playing in, or maybe eventually. He's trying to take the opportunity to really impress. Not quite got, dare I say it, the final ball at the moment, but he's always a threat, and his pace is incredible. And you kind of get the feeling we are a bit of a quick team now, especially you have him and Bayless around that right-hand side, and there's definitely something there. But he's pretty much nailed on, I think, that right-wing position. I can't think of anybody else who sort of jump into that position now. He's really come into the team and look good. I'd like him, say, to get a goal or an assist or something, just to maybe make him feel more comfortable as well in himself, and just maybe ease the burden, because I'm sure he's only a young kid. He'll probably start to feel the pressure if he doesn't kind of grab anything in the next couple of games, because we're football fans. We don't really see anything other than the fact we want players to score goals when they have a shot. So it's going to be interesting. But no, I thought he had a really strong game for us. I don't think who else. On the way back, I was listening to the radio, and Doyle was getting a lot of credit, and I give him credit for him being a really great captain. I don't think he's playing quite the same way that he did last year, but I think in terms of just making sure everybody else around him is working, we still need him. As far as I'm concerned, he's still playing a really vital role. I guess that, and that's the thing. Even if his performances diminishes, I think it's got to be quite stark for us to actually take him out of the team as it stands, because he is offsetting a lot of that with just the way he cajoles everybody else around him.
And this is the thing. It's the first few games of the season, the team kept changing and everything, and now we've won 2 league games, 1-0 with basically the same team, give or take. And so, I don't touch it.
Yeah.
Work out whether that is your first 11. After a while, if results start to falter a little bit, tweak it slightly and maybe take out one player who's not playing particularly well or whatever. But give the players the chance to form some partnerships around the pitch and whatever. And I don't think in the last 2 games, Shipley has had very strange games obviously has had massive impact but doesn't seem to have played particularly well. Johnson Clark-Harris has scored in one of them, but again has been sort of mixed. And Doyle, I think, hasn't exactly ripped up trees, but it's working, so leave it.
Yeah,
the fear for me is the Robins would look at it and be like, right, okay, it's time to get Kelly back in. You think, well, just no.
That's the problem. we had this last year, didn't we, early on, and it was just there was too much fiddling, especially when maybe we were getting points but the performances weren't quite there. And I just sort of think, we're not the team. We're not in the position where we can fiddle at all. We have no idea what's absolutely best for us. So we need to figure that one out first before we start doing anything with that with the unit. So you just stick with it, don't you? You give it a chance, because there's, in how it's like 2 games now, in that period, there's been more than enough throughout the 180 minutes to suggest that there's something there. There's good players in there working to get together well. And in an attacking sense as well, when you've got like Clark Harris, Chaplin, Bayliss, Thomas, even Shipley to an extent, there's some class in there. Oh God, that sounds horrible about Shipley, doesn't it? Like to throw him in the periphery, but no, he does work well with them, I think.
I mean, I love him, don't I? But we've gone over that ground. Are we going to get crucified if we don't spend 20 minutes talking about Connor Chaplin?
Yeah.
He is captain box office at the minute, isn't he? But for pretty good reason. He's had a huge part in the 2 wins, hasn't he?
He's had a really good start. I haven't seen it.
Should have scored.
Well, yeah, I guess he should have scored that first chance, shouldn't he? And considering how he was putting him away in the warm-up, you kind of felt he was really in the zone, and he didn't quite catch it how he wanted to. The big talking point this week has been obviously the goal that he did put away, which was a neat finish, which was chalked off for offside. I haven't really watched it back. Everybody's saying it was definitely onside, but I don't know really. What have you seen it?
The linesman put up his flag straight away.
I definitely saw that. Yeah,
and Stuart Linnell was like, he was injured. I don't know if he couldn't play. It was right. It wasn't like a 30-yard ball and he had to sprint. He was stood in. It's really hard because when it happened, I saw the flag go up, so I didn't even think about it. And there's an angle there you can sort of see on TV, but it's from the halfway line, so it's not in line. You can sort of say, oh, he's on or he's off. I don't know. It sounds really trite. It's just, if that had been Bakayoko, I don't think anyone would have argued, or it wouldn't be a thing. It's just.
If it was Bakayoko, he almost certainly would have been offside.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? It's like offsides happen all the time. It's just, it was a nice finish, but it wasn't given because he was offside. That's, at the end of the day, yeah, he might have been onside, but they're so marginal and it's happened so often. It's just, I mean, I'm sure Barnsley probably had a couple where they were like, oh, was it onside or offside? It's just, it wasn't given. I think it's a bit of I think, as I said, I think if it had been someone else, I don't think it would have been a major talking point, to be honest.
I'm tempted to look back at it now. I'll probably have a little look, because I always see this like optical illusion. That's like these things. Yeah, people see it from a certain angle, and without getting the old lines out and the rulers out and stuff, you can never really tell. But I sit there at football sometimes, and because of the angle that we sit at, there's a huge disadvantage being in the stand, and yet people don't seem to. How can you do the maths or the geometry in your head to figure it out? But if someone looks onside, he's clearly onside, or if he's offside, he's clearly offside. And then you watch your highlights and you know that you're totally wrong. And I can't help but just keep a little bit quiet around offsides at football matches, just because the angle has such a huge impact on what you see, and we're also governed by sort of just the whole hoopla of the match. We look at it and we're like, oh, clearly onside, and then half the time we're wrong. We're probably more not.
Yeah, you don't know, do you?
No, you just hope.
Paul, your view on Chaplin?
Yeah, he works really hard. That's about it, really. Yeah, he works really hard. I didn't think his touch was. I'm going to get power for this, but I didn't think his passing was particularly any good, or his touch was. His touch in the box is amazing. His first touch, when the ball's played into him in the box, is amazing. His first touch outside the box can let him down a little bit. I felt quite a few times that it didn't quite click for us going forward, because just Johnson Clark-Harris or Chaplin just didn't quite make the right choice, or their pass was a bit sloppy. I thought they worked extremely hard and they deserve an awful amount of credit. I think everyone in the team, the difference between a couple of weeks ago and Saturday was amazing in just work rate, effort, just all those sort of tangibles of desire to win the ball back and all those things. I thought Neil said after the game, he said they worked, and it was the work rate that won them that game. They just worked and worked, and
full throttle. They were 100% into everything, and that's what won them the game. I thought actually the passing at times and the interplay was quite sloppy. They gave the ball first half. I thought both Johnson, Clark, Harris, and Chaplin gave the ball away too many times at times. It was just hold on to it, just pick a little bit of a better pass. But I think what he does is his work rate, and he's always on it. He's always looking to score a goal. He's always making those runs from set pieces, from throw-ins, from every time the ball is dead, he's the man who's making a run. I think that just alone creates space and havoc for defenders. So I think for his actual work rate and tenacity is top notch, and I think his game will come. I think, it's not me saying I think he's a bad footballer. I don't think he is. He hasn't really played much this season. He's going to find his touch, I think, and I think his passing's going to get better. I just haven't seen, he hasn't had a 10 out of 10 for me yet. I know everyone's sort of loving him, and that's great, and I think he's a good signing. But I also think we just need to calm down a little bit and actually sort of let him get up to speed, because it isn't perfect at the moment. Let's accept that, and let's see how he develops over the next couple of weeks.
I want to take us on, but just one more thing that I wanted to say, and then obviously give the chance for you to wrap up any loose ends. I watched it on iFollow. I watched it back, and the thing that was really clear to me was they attacked primarily through, was he called Tiam? And then their right back, Kavare, I think. And I felt like where they broke down time and time again is those two weren't able to play the exceptional passes and crosses that they were trying to make. And for a while when I was watching it, I kept thinking, we're lucky that those two haven't got an end product. And the more I watched it, the more their starting positions when they were trying to make something happen occurred to me. And when you watched it, our shape was just so good that they just had to try spectacular stuff over and over again because they weren't getting through. The more the game went on, the more I really appreciated how good Hyam and Willis, all of that unit was, and Doyle as well, that they weren't getting any easy ins. They couldn't get down the side, they weren't able to get through the middle properly, and they had loads of corners, they had loads of shots, but did they have any real chances?
And then that 9-foot guy up front, didn't they?
Yeah,
who by right should have been a massive threat, and he was hard work. And I'm sure Hyam and Willis after the match will say just how hard it was playing against him. But I think it dealt with him. Eventually, it was a bit of a threat early on, but like you say, come the end of it, they were starting to run out of ideas, and even the ball to him didn't seem like the right one for them, and they were trying other things which probably weren't going to be as fruitful for them.
And back to where we were at the start, is the reason that I said that they lacked that quality is I thought they had a lot of the game, but very little of the they didn't pose much of a threat. But I didn't think it was their problem. I thought that we nullified them really, really well. I thought was really, really pleased with that performance overall. Sorry, Paul.
But I think that's why we're at our best when we play 4-4-2, because I could imagine if we'd have played 4-2-3-1 in that format, they would have got a lot more joy where,
they would.
As we discussed last week, that it's easier to run at your fullback if you've only got a fullback to run at. They had to get past Thomas and Shipley to get at the fullbacks. I think 4-4-2 suits us because Barnsley are a good passing side, but they're still a League One side. They're still not brilliant footballers who are doing brilliant passing moves who are going to tear you apart. So you can afford to be outnumbered in the centre midfield because you've got when they go forward, you're outnumbering their attacking players because they've only got one striker. So that the balls to that one striker have to be immaculate. So I think, and it was exactly the same against Oxford. It was just like 4-4-2 for us absolutely suits us because you don't isolate Doyle, because he's always got Shipley alongside him. It gives Bayliss a bit of freedom as well, and it's quite easy to organise two banks of four. That's why it's been England's sort of game for the last century. That sort of your right back and your right midfielder know their jobs alongside each other, and they didn't create. They gave Barnsley no space. I think I was talking to a couple of people at work and I went, well, at the end of the day, we deserved to win, but there was no denying our man of the match was our goalkeeper. And you can square that by saying that we deserve to win because
what we did when we had the ball, our work rate when they had the ball, got us into a position where we scored the goal. And it's down to that work rate, which wasn't there at the start of the season, which is there now. I think the players look a lot more comfortable in the 4-4-2. They seem a lot more rigid defensively. We got one of the harder teams out of the way in Barnsley. If we go to Bristol Rovers and get a victory, which isn't beyond them because they're pretty crap, then it's 3 wins on the bounce, and you're really beginning to sort of put that sort of early season sort of worries behind you. And I completely agree with what you were saying earlier. The team is looking more and more settled. Yeah, I think Mason would come back in at left back. But I think he's been injured, which is why he's not been playing. But you're getting closer to a settled side.
And you'd put Groomer back in You'd put Groomer back in a right back, right?
As I said, I'm not going. I just don't care anymore.
Yeah,
it's like
I think that's fair.
I think I'm a bit sick of this, like the right back being the major avoidance discussion. I think Jody Jones coming back is only going to give us back, because one of the problems you look at the bench, there probably isn't that winger option. Alassani, he wasn't on the bench, I don't know where he's at. He doesn't seem to have settled in yet. So I mean, the main thing is keeping Jonathan Clark-Harris in sort of the right sort of focus. I think it probably was interesting for him at the start of the season, being signed and seeing all these other strikers clearly being out of the squad for a bit. He was in the under 23s when everyone else was in the first team squad. Now he's first choice again. This is his chance to really cement it, because the other strikers have been signed, have had their chance and haven't shown anything. So let's hope that he grasps it as well. And I think he just a goal would probably do him a good as well. I know he got one earlier, but that just settles him down again, gets him sort of I suppose he's also in the lucky position where there's no Cov fan on the entire planet who's demanding that Bakayoko comes in for him.
Or Huula, lest we forget, who most people have forgotten about, I think.
Yeah.
Neil, any final thoughts on Barnsley, or shall we wrap things up?
I think we can wrap it up there.
Lovely stuff. Let's talk to Dom, who's got some Bristol Rovers preview, and then let's get to Paul's question. Hi Dom, thanks for joining us.
As ever, it's good to be on the show.
Bristol Rovers, how have they done so far?
Not great. They're in the relegation zone. They've only won one league game thus far. Looking at it a bit closer, they've lost. Most of the games they've lost has only been by 1 goal, so they're not that far away from things clicking. They just seem to be low on confidence a bit in the minute, struggling to score goals, and they just need to get their season off to a kickstart.
Anyone that stuck out for them so far?
Yeah, so basically over the past couple of seasons, Bristol Rovers have sold their star player almost sort of in each of the past 3 seasons. It's been the case. A couple of years ago, they sold Matty Taylor, who went to Bristol City, controversially. Then last January, they sold Billy Bowden, who was a really good winger, just sort of almost like an lower league Iron Robin, maybe not quite the pace. He went to Preston. And this summer, they lost Ellis Harrison, who's another striker they've lost. So they've lost goals in the team, and they've tried to replace Harrison with a few players. I mean, they tried to sign Amadou Bakayoko, so they're very much were sort of shopping in the same market as we were, trying to replace when we were trying to replace McNulty, and they sort of ended up with similar players who are not exactly prolific, but if they get decent enough service, they should score a few. Stephen Payne is probably their most notable striker. He was with Shrewsbury last season. He wasn't super prolific, but he got into double figures in a good Shrewsbury Town side, and he's currently their top scorer on a sum total of 2 goals. For Bristol Rovers at the moment, it's all about the midfield. Got Chris Lines, who's a very experienced player. I think Laurie was saying he'd played cricket with Chris Lines, so there you go. But he's just a very good passing midfielder. He's on set pieces when he's on the pitch. He's getting on a bit now, so he doesn't always start games. Sometimes he'll come off the bench, but bigger sort of talismanic sort of figure for the club. We've also got Ed Upson and Liam Sercombe, who are both 2 really good League One midfielders. They both like to get in and score goals. Sercombe, if you remember, scored for Oxford in the Checkatrade Trophy final, sparking squeaky bum time for us and that ridiculous Lee Burge save right at the end, which was just incredible. A bit of a problem for Bristol Rovers has been they've got sort of a ball playing midfield. They've got midfielders who want to make runs into the box. Haven't really got that player inside who can sit in front of the defence and stop people playing between the lines. So that's an area of weakness for them. And then at the back, they don't have anyone particularly outstanding. They have Tom Lockyer, who is a Welsh international, who's a ball-playing centre-back. So it's a decent enough squad. There are a few gaps in it. Look to be struggling for goals, but they've got a good manager in Darryl Clark, who led them out of the conference to back-to-back promotions and into League One, where at one point they looked like kicking on to the playoffs, and it just looks like they just don't have the money to kick on to that next level. So they'll be a decent enough side. I don't think they'll be in too much relegation danger, but when a team doesn't have goals in their side, then it just makes things that much more difficult.
They should have got themselves Amadou Bakayoko.
That's definitely the missing ingredient in that squad.
Okay, do you want to go for a prediction this week?
I reckon it will be a 1-1 draw. Should be a decent enough result. It's probably a game we need to win, just based on that we do have 3 really tough games coming up after it in Sunderland, Portsmouth, and then Charlton away, where you want sort of points in the bag there to go and sort of attack those games rather than really sort of crossing your fingers needing to get points out of them. But you imagine there'll be a bit of a reaction from Bristol Rovers as they look to get their second win of the season.
Yeah. Just before you go, 8 games in, what have you made of us so far?
I was a little concerned at the start of the season, especially in the wake of the Blackpool game. I think that sent alarm bells ringing for everyone. Just looked to be just like we hadn't really replaced Mark McNulty. Looked like there'd been a few too many changes to the squad, and there was a real lack of intensity to our performances. We didn't really know what we were about as a team, but as we've seen in the last 2 games, we're not a perfect side. I don't think we will be troubling the playoff spots if I'm looking at it objectively, but it looks like with the sign of Connor Chaplin that there is that missing ingredient potentially that we look to have lost with McNulty, in that there is a level of intensity and urgency when we attack, which is promising, and let's see how long it can last.
Good stuff. Speak to you again next week.
Okay, speak to you then.
Okay, thanks, Dom. Right, Paul's question.
All right.
Go for it.
So, did Patrick Sufo score more goals for Cov or for someone else in English League football?
I would say someone else. I think he scored more goals for Sheffield United.
I agree.
No, he scored more goals for Cov.
Did he?
No.
Really?
How many?
It wasn't many.
Oh, that's
it was
shite, isn't it?
15 or something like that. And then after Cov, he sort of disappeared off the face of the earth for a bit. I think he still lives in the Coventry area, doesn't he?
Yeah. I think he lives in Stoke.
I thought he said he lived in Cov.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah, I'm here all week. All right, Dele Adebola, Cov or someone else?
It should be us, shouldn't it?
But I'm going to
say. Sorry, go on.
Patrick Sufo scored 10 goals for Cov and only 5 for Sheffield United.
Right, okay. I'm going to say that Delhi scored more goals for Birmingham. Neil?
Yeah, I'm going someone else.
It wasn't Birmingham. It was Crewe.
Oh, right. Was that right at the start of his career?
He started at Crewe, scored 39 goals for them. 31 for Blues, 31 for Cov. 16 for Bristol City. 6 for Rochdale. I mean, who even knew he played for Rochdale?
Yeah. Although I guess he should have played for Rochdale. And he played 6,000 career games, lest we forget.
Yeah, I mean, he was around a long time. Stern John.
Has to be someone else.
Someone else.
In English football, he scored more goals for Coventry City than anyone else.
Oh,
Trick
what
question.
the what?
18 for Notts County, 16 for Blues, 26 for Cov, 5 for Sunderland, 19 for Southampton,
How has
2
this
for
happened?
Bristol City, 2 for Crystal Palace,
See,
and
I
1
thought-
for Ipswich.
I thought this was going to be some sort of trick questioning thing where it was going to be all the players that had scored more for someone else had done it for Birmingham or something like that. But
No.
clearly not. No, okay.
All right, the next one's, I think, the next two are probably the easiest two. Andy Morrell for Cov or someone else.
Well, it's someone else, isn't
Someone
it?
else.
Because he
Wrexham, innit?
banged Wrexham,
Yeah.
didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, he got 35 goals in one season for Wrexham prior to signing for us. And then obviously we played him on the right wing for the most
Yeah.
of his Coventry career.
He was. Did you? He was on the radio. At
He
the
was,
weekend.
yeah.
Basically, he's sort of talking about he's out of work at the moment and just sort of itching for a job. But he's Stuart Linnell all the way through has been the most sort of downbeat sort of down. Oh, it's really hard work out there. It's hard to get jobs, isn't it? What are you going to do if David Moyes can't get a job? What are you going to do? It's like fucking now. This guy was out of work. You're supposed to G him up.
And finally, the easiest one of the lot, did Gary McSheffrey score more goals for Cov or for someone else?
It's got to be us, hasn't it?
Cov.
Yes, it is.
Unless
He's
he had
more
a
goals.
really purple patch for Doncaster a few years ago that I wasn't aware of.
I don't think you are aware of that.
Where
No.
is he? He is somewhere now, still, isn't he?
Frickley Athletic.
Oh, really?
Really?
He was
You say that as if it's a major football team. and you're
No, I thought he
surprised.
was going to be somewhere higher, if I'm honest, because he was playing for Grimsby, wasn't he? And he didn't give a great show of himself when he come back to the Rico, did he?
He wasn't fully fit, was he?
No, I'm not.
Bless him.
I'm not having a go. But it was a bit of a. It was whilst you don't want to see an opposition player play well, it was a bit of a shame watching that game. You're a bit like, oh man, somebody take him off.
So that's it. That's the end of this particular.
Good game.
Good game, yeah,
Threw us with some of those.
yeah, good solid work. Anything we need to plug before we finish off?
Do you not want any viewer questions, listener questions?
Let's have some. Have we got any good ones?
If Burge conceded no more goals by Christmas, would some fans still dislike him?
Yeah. Next.
Sorry, I should have got this earlier, but I was doing something else. Are we going to get back-to-back promotions?
No.
Yes, please. Don't know.
Player of the season so far?
I hate that question.
Yeah, it's very early, isn't it? But I think
Dom
I think
Hyam.
Dominic Hyam's been very good, hasn't he? Yeah.
Jordan Shipley discussed, is he crucial enough to be in a team as a whole to ignore the fact that despite his undoubted effort and aptitude, he's League 2 standard, not League 1? But I think we sort of answered that. Is Jordan Willis a club legend already? If so, do you think fans show enough appreciation? Sort of answered that. What's less convincing, Jody Jones's moustache or Stuart Linnell's laughter at any attempted joke by a caller?
Who was that? That's question of the week.
David Clare.
Yes.
That's fabulous work.
Is Notts County self-destruction one of the highlights of your season life?
Yeah.
I've got to be
Definitely.
honest. I know this is, but it's like something happens to us, and all the say Grimsby or something, and all the fans are like, oh, Grimsby are just obsessed with Coventry City, and it's like they're not. They're just, and it's a bit like I don't understand this obsession with Notts County. We beat them, just I don't care anymore.
It was the reaction. I think the
Yeah.
way their fans came at it. I mean, ordinarily, I think you'd kind of forget about it, wouldn't you? But I think people just get so whipped up into the excitement of taking the piss out, and it's a little bit too easy at the moment. But we've been there many before, so.
Well,
let's,
that was what I was going to say. There's so often in the last 10 years where you've thought, I wonder if this sort of stuff happens to other clubs. That when you see Notts County completely undeservedly not win that first leg and then get tonked at their place and then tank this season, you think, oh yeah, it does. It's not terrible things do happen to other clubs. All right, okay, bye-bye.
Is Chaplin going to be better than McNulty?
Well, you can't compare the two, can you? He's operating at a higher level. He could get 10 goals this season and still maybe would have got more than McNulty would have got. We'll never know, will we?
Another Jordan Shipley. Is Jordan Shipley a lucky charm for us? Is he A, massively underrated as a player? B, just fits into sort of the more attacking wing on the other side? C, lucky.
Hey, look, he's a bit harsh. The guy scores
Yeah.
some goals. He's got a good shot on him. He's competent in the system. I think we've kind of covered it, but
Yeah, I know.
there is more to him, isn't there? He does, but I think that the key is he always offsets everything he does with the fact that he's going to give you everything, and that's important.
I think for every team that's got a Luke Thomas in it, you need a Jordan Shipley in it.
Is Burge our best keeper since Westwood in the Championship?
Not better than Murphy.
I
I love him though. Obviously, I'm not having a go, but Joe Murphy was. We've been blessed with a good number of decent keepers over the last 15, 20 years, haven't we?
If Andrew is to work his way back into the team, who does he replace?
That's a great question. I'll leave that one with Neil.
I think it's a real struggle for him, especially if we continue 4-4-2. He's the most number 10 player. I think I've said that before, but I don't know how he fits elsewhere. So unless we make some changes or there's an injury or something, I guess the only way that could possibly happen is maybe if I don't know, if Chaplin gets injured, touch wood, then he maybe plays in behind Clark Harris or something daft like that. It's difficult for him.
Right, the Memorial Ground pitch is 19 metres shorter than the Rico, but the same width. Does this work for or against us against Bristol Rovers?
I mean, I have no idea. I apologise.
I think there's one more. I can't find it. You two talk by yourself. I'll just make sure. Oh, if you could play with only two of the following, who would you pick and why? Agogo, Bayliss, Kelly, Doyle, Andrew.
What in central midfield in a 4-4-2?
Yeah, just pick your two midfielders, I think.
Bayliss, Doyle.
Yeah, Bayliss and Doyle at the moment. That's not to say that I think they're the best ones, but they have proved that they work well together, and we've been doing all right with them in the team.
And the final one, because I think we should end this show with Chaplin Gate. Chaplin's goal, offside or not?
I mean, Neil covered it comprehensively when he said, no one knows. So,
but at the time, I saw the offside flag and once again shouted quite loudly, "Offside!" But that's what I live for. Those moments.
Yeah,
it is definitely a weird thing when you spot the offside flag, and because there's about 6 of us on Saturday, and I spotted it. Pritchard obviously spotted it because we were both sort of stood there, and then Jimbo was going mad, and you're like, I don't want to tell him, but it's offside, and you feel like I don't really want to I don't mind telling, when Notts County scored that goal and it was given as offside, and everyone's really disappointed.
Yeah,
it's really cool being the guy who spots the offside flag. It's like, ha! I'm about to make your day. But when it's one of your own players, you're like, I'll just leave him be.
he'll work it out on his own. Yeah,
he'll be fine.
I still maintain a lot of people just don't work it out. They continue celebrating for a good 10 minutes afterwards, and I don't know what's going on there. I spot every offside flag. It's my reaction to every goal is to always check the linesman.
Yeah, my dad used to do it. My dad used to do it before. If the linesman looked like he could see it from 200 yards, whether he'd flicked his wrist ever so slightly. It's nose give it. Right, let's wrap things up then. So, any final plugs from anyone?
Not from me.
No.
FMC Online, get over there. More retro shirts. The Ribeiro one. Main reason for mentioning this is because Laurie of this pod has the actual shirt, and the more people that can get a replica one devalues his own one. So never miss an opportunity to bring him down. I think that's it apart from that. So thank you very much, Paul.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you.
And thank you, guys. Bye.